Why is the US so incompetent? Why can't it win a war? Why is it always so messed up? Because it's fully subverted. Half the generals are drug addicts, pedophiles, and on the pay of Wall Street and the political Zionist movement. They didn't tell you about the Makinda World Island, the Bunting Cloverleaf map, and the big picture of removing the United States from Eurasia. The United States has gone in, smashed the place up since Vietnam, made a fool of itself, killed its own troops, killed millions of civilians from Korea to Vietnam to the Middle East. Everyone hates them, and now they're virtually praying for China. China said, we want to win-win. We want to help. Russia's here to help. And of course they look good, because America has been stomping around with the political Zionist movement, feeding intelligence to the insurgencies, feeding the travel routes of the American troops and their patrols, so IEDs can be placed. Jabu, the sniper, is an Israeli, 100%, an Israeli Arab working for the Shin Bet, running around shooting American troops, making sure American troops lose their temper and start killing civilians. And then China and Russia move in, and Arabs are saying, please come in, please build us smart cities, please. And they just miss the fact that Israel is running the whole damn show. By the time they're finished, they won't care, because everyone is exhausted. They want their kids to go to school. They want their kids not to be kidnapped and beheaded and raped and murdered and slaughtered. And they're just going to go, we give up, we're tired, we're exhausted. And Rothschild goes, ha ha. And China and Russia snaffle the rebuilding contracts. And America limps home to lick its wounds and fight amongst itself. To fight amongst itself, tear itself apart. So now they're pulling out, all the US troops are trained up. They know how to run a counterinsurgency. They've got all their technology now. They've got all their IED detection devices for when things go off, perhaps in the United States, and things go full zombie or partial zombie, and things get really bad. And do you not understand that just going after Israel isn't the point? It's to split off US public opinion from Israel so Russia and China can move in. Do you understand? Just because someone goes after Israel, at this point, no, you've got to go after Israel and explain the big picture. You've got to understand the big picture, or you won't understand. You're being led by the nose to your certain doom. You need to understand the Bunting Cloverleaf map. You need to understand the Makinda World Island. They're going to understand that just because you say Israel, see, that's all enough now. Israel's bad. And everyone goes, oh, look, they're on our side. No, Israel's bad because they want to break off the United States public. They want to break off and push Israel into the arms of Russia and China. That's why they're doing it. And you needed the full picture to understand Iran, its role in the Belt and Road, its central role. I was there in Tehran getting groomed to assist in this. I refused to take part and left. When I went, it's the Belt and Road. And the lawyer told me, we'll be handling the stands. It's a big deal. And I clicked the Belt and Road. This is what Afghanistan is about. The removal of the United States from Eurasia and the Middle East. So Russia and China and Israel will be running the show. With the capital of the world being Jerusalem. That's not my words, that's their words. That's David Ben-Gurion. That's Bible prophecy, you name it. David Ben-Gurion especially had many, many things to say about the federated states all being represented in the capital of the world, Jerusalem, in Greater Israel. So this is all part of that. Now, but it's the Makinda World Island and the Bunting Cloverleaf map you see unfolding as the US has been ejected from the Middle East, and Eurasia and China and Russia are moving in. Time is short. There's only 1 or 2 years left. 1 or 2 years left. So you better pray, particularly for the United States military. Pray they get the right narrative. Just do what you can, but try and focus your energies on the men and women with guns and the lawful authority to use them, which is the United States military. Because that's all that stands between us now in the next few years, certainly this decade, of the most seductive New World Order system ever. Lucifer will come as an agent of light, and it's going to be very difficult to resist the UN Habitat Smart Cities program. The Americans and NATO were welcomed. What happened? In came the private security contractors and the opium began to flow. 2, they stuck in power, these effing warlords. This was all Kissinger. Forget Soros had nothing to do. This was Kissinger, the person we all forgot to mention. Remember when we're all, Soros. Yeah, Soros is a piece of crap. He's the left hand of the right hand, left and right dialectic. And we all forgot Kissinger. We had to get Kissinger back into the picture. Everyone seemed to have forgotten. And the fact that he was in the White House for 4 years should have you very worried if you're a Trump supporter. Who was advising that whole battle? The same people that effed up Vietnam? The same people that run around behaving like brutish assholes? Well, you've done it now, America. You know you're subverted, and now you behave like a brutish dumbass. You've supported every dictator piece of garbage that's walked the earth. Now China can walk in and go, hey, we're here for a win-win. China walks in, we just want a win-win. And everyone goes, yeah, I think we'll take China after that debacle. Russia walks in, we just want to help too. They're totally in bed with Russia and China. Totally. And they're in bed with Israel. And of course, you know what I talk about with the Belt and Road. Terror grows where desperation grows. I repeat, terror grows where desperation grows. By Jessica Berlin, DWTV. Well, the problem will be solved. There'll be no desperation because the deal's been done in the Belt and Road. The Rothschild pan-Eurasian superstate is being built. They're reshuffling the grand chessboard, which is the entire planet. They're shifting the high-tech industrial sector out of the United States, just like the Brits lost their empire. Remember, this is a parasite. It'll parasitically attach itself to each society, extract it, then leave the husk. This is not an insightful, horrible thing to say about Jews, all right? But it just happens to be that's what the political Zionist movement is. Now, does a Lord Jacob Rothschild consider himself an English gentleman? Yes, to some point. But if he has to just dump the UK and whatever, it'll only be used for him and this planetary trading guild as much as it's needed to control the planet. They want to move the head office to Jerusalem, as prophesized in Bible prophecy, but also just from the Sharia strategic application of common sense. It's the hub, the bunting cloverleaf map. Has anyone else mentioned this to you? Do you understand what a limited hangout is? You needed to know about the Belt and Road and the full picture. If you cannot understand that particular unless you understand the grand chessboard. So the US has been humiliated. What the US could have done is, if you had to leave, and the thought that they couldn't stabilize Afghanistan is horseshit. The US has technology that can watch a possum fart from outer space. They could have completely sealed off Taliban supply lines from Pakistan and other areas. All right, they're walking through the cold passes. Even in summer, it's cold. You can spot people easily. They could have had thousands of drones with Hellfire missiles, or a cheaper version of the Hellfire. You don't need that 25-pound monster which takes out main battle tanks. You could have had drones with smaller munitions, and they could have been flying over every single patrol that ever went out in Afghanistan. They could have been monitoring the patrol routes for IEDs. A whole range of things could have been done. Now watch China do it. Now initially I thought China was going to get its ass handed to them by a bunch of Pashtuns with AKs, but no. It looks like the deals have been done. This is a complete smooth trade-off, and Biden's close ties with the Chinese Communist Party, but so did Donald Trump. Henry Kissinger is the closest Chinese Communist Party member you could ever possibly have, and he's sitting there in the White House advising for 4 years. People miss this. It's beyond Trump. It's beyond Biden. It's denology, private military contractors. But that big picture, the humiliation in Afghanistan, what's that done? This was all deliberate. People have gone, well, we're never working with the United States again. Never. They're just going to come in, bust the place up, and they're going to leave us to rot. That's a huge implication of what just happened. That's a huge implication. People are pissed at America now. The goodwill, that final goodwill the United States had is gone completely. Alexander Dugin said at the former briefer of the Russian General Staff, the son of a famous Russian GRU general, that's Russian military intelligence, with the fourth political, I forgot his books, he's got 3 or 4 books. But he lays out that China will control all of the Asia Pacific, including Australia. I really think they're panicking about China. China has threatened to rain down intermediate range ballistic missiles with conventional warheads in Australia. It hasn't even been reported. It's been in Sky News and a couple of others. It's hardly been reported. You don't start threatening stuff like that. Now they're threatening Japan. Australia is officially, well, everyone's at war with China, but Australia realises they're going to be handed to the Chinese Communist Party. It's not really the CCP. It's Rothschild. It's not even now there's the Crown Corporate, which is a corporate entity. It's not flesh and blood Crown. Because I'm telling you right now, Prince Charles hates Rothschild. They hate. His great-grandmother, Queen Victoria, did the deal with the banking house of Rothschild and the East India Trading Company. This is not even British. It's not MI6. Remember, MI6 and MI5 went in 2008. They went after the City of London and said, you've got to stop laundering all this Russian oligarch drug money. Enough. Because they were paying off politicians, doing all sorts of mischief. But that's not the Russian oligarchs. That's the banking house of Rothschild. The banking house of Rothschild owes nothing to no one. It just happens to have an office in your city or in your country and a central bank. It owns the whole effing planet, or is trying to own it permanently via technology, because there's so few of them. They have to have technology on their side. That's why we can still win, if we get the message out to the right people. So now the deal's been done. Now this does not bode well. The ending in Afghanistan does not bode well for the United States. I'll tell you why. They're going to break up the US. It's a Kissinger-Soros plan. This is why you got a Whitney Webb talking about Israel and you're clapping your hands. And at first glance, I understand why. But the thing is to break off American public opinion from Israel, because Israel is going with Russia and China now. And you've got to understand, half of Israel is pro-America. They don't want to go with Russia and China. And I don't mean to be nasty to my beautiful Russian friends who I admire so much for what they had to go through under Stalin, which was all Rockefeller, all coming out of New York, good old Trotsky and the rest coming out of New York. Funny how they all come out of New York, isn't it? Anyway, we understand the internationalist thing of this, with home base in Jerusalem. From her own words, David Ben-Gurion, the Bolshevik, who in 1924 came back from visiting Stalin going, I'm a Bolshevik, that's reported in Haaretz. The Israeli press is the best information you're going to get, not just on Israeli focus and Middle East stuff. So a lot of the Israelis you see and consider arrogant and full of themselves, they're Russians. And a lot of the Russians have got a fair gripe with the West, man. They were humiliated. And now they see it as a chance. It's being played off against. Now it's our revenge. Now we have the Russian Empire. Now we are in control. But guess what, Russia? You're not in control. Putin's not your boy. General Lebed was your real Russian nationalist. You got Kissinger and Rothschild's pick called Putin. Why do you think all his money's in the city of London? All their money's in Swiss and London banks, people, and Frankfurt and Deutsche Bank. Why do you think that is? Because they are the sponsors of these people. Vladimir Putin is an agent of Kissinger and the banking house of Rothschild. The banking house of Rothschild, East India Trading Company, private intelligence network. That's why they're privatizing everything. Department of Homeland Security, privatized. The CIA, privatized. NSA, privatized with all their subcontractors. Why? Because it's a more efficient way to do things? No, because Rothschild can penetrate those places with his employees out of the Israeli military intelligence programs and out of GCHQ, who's got placed there. It's easier to penetrate a private company than it is the NSA, which is a very closed-in system. That's why they're doing it. They're privatizing the military. They're privatizing intelligence community. This privatization means you can't FOI stuff. You can't go to Lockheed and demand to see their books. But you can go to the Department of Defense and see their books. You can FOI a lot of stuff. You can't touch Lockheed. And they say it's more efficient. It's not more efficient. They're ripping off more money than ever. That's what happens when you privatize. What do you think Elon Musk is? That's another East India Trading Company, privatized network, sucking the technology out of NASA, taxpayer funded by the American taxpayers. They suck it out and they send it through Elon Musk, that moron, congenital moron with his Tesla joke car moron. And then they say, look, see, private enterprise is far more efficient than these government institutions. That's bullshit. It's a way to get technology, and they're spreading it around the whole planet. Why? They've got to build the 5G surveillance state smart city infrastructure. It's all about that. This notion of privatization at all costs, it's not about efficiency. It's worse. It's costing you more money, and it's a technology transfer. Privatize everything, so then you can't look into it. Why should the US taxpayers pay for all that military training and all that initial training, NSA and other, so they can go out and join the private sector? There's a balance between the private sector and the state. Remember, we are the state. If you want to get shafted by the state, then stop becoming involved in politics. The state is all we have. We're members of the board. If we don't want to exercise power and say we're powerless, why do you think the powers that be spend so much time brainwashing, keeping us out of politics? Noam Chomsky, Professor Noam Chomsky, MIT, you've got to read him. Yes, he's a leftist twat. He's a gatekeeper, but he's still excellent. It should be compulsory in every school to read the book Manufacturing Consent and the 3-hour documentary. It should be compulsory, where he shows they are so desperate to keep you out of the political process. Why? Because you have the power. You have the power. But you keep saying you have no power. And they've got people running around online telling you, you've got no power, you've got no power, don't listen to O'Connell, he's going to get you killed, the black helicopters are going to come. Oh my God, don't talk to the CIA, don't talk to the FBI, don't talk to the military, don't make complaints, no, stay away, because they run those institutions. And then the managerial class, the good people there, are too scared to act because they don't see the popular opinion within general society there. They don't feel compelled to act and to dob in their supervisors, the supervisors who are actually working for the City of London. They don't have the confidence. You need to give them the confidence. And when they see the chatter in the data analytics, chattering about the right things, they're going to get very, very, very scared. Very scared. There's good people out there. Don't let them tell you that the institutions are all corrupt. They're not. There's problems, but they're not. They want to keep you out of politics, and they want to keep you from making complaints to the right people. So when you see a crime taking place, i.e. technology transfer, right? You call the FBI, you call the Department of Homeland Security tip line. For God's sake, I'm traveling around the effing planet. I'm going to Lebanon, I'm in Malaysia, I'm in some very risky places. I'm still alive. You send me an Israeli drones worldwide, video 18, I call the Department of Homeland Security. That's a brilliant video. You've never seen it. It's not allowed to be done. They want you clicking links like a fool and marginalising the ghettos of BitChute and Odyssey and Brighteon and whatever other crap social media platforms they put up. It's time to stay mainstream as possible and reach out to the ordinary people who use their YouTube app, who are busy lives. They're not sitting around all day reading stuff. And if you have that big picture, you will understand the particulars that are going on right now, including Afghanistan. This tells me this smooth transition, China's moving in, it was all ready to go. He did the dirty work. He broke off America from Central Asia and China. Henry Kissinger, right there advising Jared Kushner the whole 4 years. My God. It's beyond Trump and Biden. It's the same privatized Pentagon retired general network that Kay Griggs talked about. Secondary weapon sales, drug trafficking. Henry Kissinger. She said they're communists in suits. It's a done deal in the Middle East. It's all over. America would now withdraw back and will break up. 2 years ago, it would have been good to have a spokesperson, professional, semi-journalistic like Whitney Webb tell you all about the Belt and Road, but she couldn't. She was too busy defending Iran and Russia because she gets money from Russian criminals. Where do you think John McAfee got his money from? John McAfee said to me in 2017, if you go after Putin, you'll get term money. I went from $500 a week, which is a lot of money US in Kuala Lumpur, to $50 overnight. There's a network running around paying them not to talk about Iran and Russia and the Belt and Road. It should be obvious. To finally bring down the United States, force it back into itself, ejected out of Eurasia. This is all the pan-Eurasian superstate tipping point, which was Greater Israel. It's unfolding before your eyes.